Kia ora team, welcome back to the Black Jersey. I'm Max, I'm the host of the channel, and the Six Nations has started off in a very exciting way. Scotland versus England, we're taking each other on for the Calcutta Cup in Murrayfield, and goodness me, we got some very exciting competitive rugby that we just don't see enough of here in New Zealand when we're watching the Rugby Championship. Well worth getting up at 5 AM for, so we'll dive into what happened in the game. I'll present a couple of stats on the screen as we go along to showcase how things went for the teams, and I'll just explain my opinion on some of the events that happened throughout the game. So in the first minute, England were the team to kick off. Scotland keep things in the forwards and they let Price kick downfield. This appears to be England's game plan. I thought surely Eddie Jones has not reverted back to what he was doing back in 2019 to start things off for games in the World Cup and stuff. England attempt to play a bit of fast-paced rugby, but they fail. So Youngs kicks down the field, Van der Merwe marks it. England continue to dominate possession after their second line-out until Matt Fagerson wins a turnover. Matt Fagerson was named as the man of the match. I think he had a very good performance with 16 tackles and 33 metres made. Scotland kick for touch to get their first line-out. George Turner does not start things off too pretty for Scotland. It's not straight. England go for a scrum. They put severe pressure on Scotland with grubber kicks and powerful running. Their 3 try-scoring attempts though ends with Stewart collecting an offload from Malins but being tackled in touch 5 metres out from the try line. Hogg's tackle on Sam Simmonds also I think was a bad call. It gets Sam Simmonds in the face, but it is not ruled as a penalty. Simmonds' second carry then leads to Ali Price being removed for an HIA. Ben White comes on for his Scotland debut. I think he had a very, very flashy, exciting, well-controlled debut for Scotland. Now a kicking war, that starts after a Scotland line-out. I don't like a lot of those, so luckily it ends with Hogg giving England a line-out inside England's own 22-metre line, so we can see Scotland put a bit of pressure on the English. Ritchie's penalised at the line-out though, so England's take yet another one in Scotland's half. Another penalty is conceded less than a minute later after Johnny Gray gets in the ruck from the side a bit. Marcus Smith takes a shot of goal to open the scoring from 31 metres out. And so that means the scoreline is 3-0 for England. Scotland open up space a bit after the kickoff. Darcy Graham beats 2 defenders, including a really poor tackle attempt from Joe Marchant. Graham passes inside so Ben White can score on his debut, and Russell converts, so England is then losing to Scotland 3-7. Good stuff by Scotland to let White in for a try on his debut. Very, very excellent try from Scotland. Luke Cowan-Dickie, yes, kicks a cropper for England under advantage from a Hogg knock-on. Rory Sutherland a minute later wins a turnover for Scotland after the kick gets England back into the 22. Ali Price does return after passing his HIA. George Turner throws a bit of a short line out for the 3rd time, but it's nullified by England who push him into touch. Scotland get the ball after Cowan-Dickie is ruled offside, and Malins by 27 minutes in the game has already run 72 metres. He wasn't too involved in the second half, but he did still run quite a few metres in this test match. Gap finally opens for England. Ben Youngs makes the line break, allowing England back into Scotland's 10-metre line. Scotland are penalised at the ruck. Marcus Smith cross kicks to Slade under advantage, but this one goes to touch. Marcus Smith, very good game. Henry Slade, he appears to be the dominant leader in England's backline now that Owen Farrell is out injured. Henry Slade may continue this in my opinion because I think he's doing a fantastic job. England's backs then join the driving maul. Slade crosses the line after joining this. It is held up by Chris Harris though. For the most part, Scotland's midfield were an absolute no-show. Neither of them made any meters. At least they did get in and get stuck into the tackle and stuff, I guess. Look, Scotland, they just need more of a running midfield, man. It's getting quite boring to watch them midfield nowadays. Jamie Ritchie then illegally attempts a turnover, and he enters from the side to do this, so Smith opts to kick for goal again. Scoreline for England is 6-7, they're still losing. Itoje doesn't support his weight at the breakdown and he's penalised for collapsing it. Finn Russell attempts the penalty from 49 metres. He gets it over, so at half time Scotland are winning by 10-6. Here's a couple of the halftime stats courtesy of Ultimate Rugby, my favourite app to use. So yeah, as you can see from these halftime stats, England had a massive amount of possession, and Scotland were doing very well to still be in the lead despite all of the stats tipping themselves in England's favour. To start off the second half, Finn Russell's kickoff leads to England keeping ball on the forwards until continuous box kicks. So annoying, those continuous box kicks. Ended a knock-on by Freddie Stewart. This is the first time I've seen Stewart drop a ball. Darcy Graham carries Scotland past 50 metres but runs into his own teammate Grant Gilchrist, allowing England to kick for touch after Gilchrist is penalised for obstruction. England is initially pushed back in their maul, but they do go forward. Scotland are penalised for the third time in a row, 7 metres from the try line. They're right in front of the post, so Marcus Smith kicks the penalty over for England, getting them to a 9-10 loss, only a 1 point margin. Physicality of England's pack continues to shut down Scotland's run completely. Russell getting charged down by a Tojo, for example, not ideal for Scotland. Scotland's lineout is then back inside their own half. They attempt a maul after the lineout, but it falls apart, so Scotland have to pretty much just sub off their entire front row, and so Pierre Schoeman comes on for a debut. The South African is now joining another South African and a Scottish front row, I know. Stuart McInally, of course, takes a bit of a leadership role when he comes on. I think Stuart McInally was having a very good game for Scotland. Schoeman and Nell don't have the best start though. They collapse the scrum. England are awarded a kick to touch. Youngs goes wide and stuff. Marcus Smith runs onto the ball at pace, goes through a gap. Russell misses the tackle on Smith, and he scores a try from 10 metres out. Unfortunately, Marcus Smith fails to convert his own try. England are winning 14-10 though. Scotland really get an attack going. A lot of running rugby in the back for the second half. They do lose the ball. Price does, however, get in the face of Ben Youngs in the 60th minute. Youngs knocks the ball on. McInally picks up, offloads to Gray. Johnny Gray can pass over to Price, but Youngs does get him back and tackle him to touch. Princess Anne, she is watching the game, and Magnus Bradbury replaces Jamie Ritchie, who has a leg injury. Something that was long overdue as well does come at this point. Look, Sione Tuipolosho is an Australian. He should not be eligible for Scotland. He had not lived in Scotland when he made his debut, but he did play a far better game off the bench than Sam Johnson did from the starting jersey. I was happy at this point that Sione Tuipolosho was coming on. Van der Merwe then runs over 20 metres after catching a high ball in the 61st minute. England are able to play some very exciting rugby. Under advantage, no try though. Young's chip kicks to March and the ball is carried back by Hogg, and so Smith takes another penalty for England. He kicks the penalty, so England are then winning 17-10. He's subbed off for George Ford at this point though, whereas Genge and Sinclair are subbed off for Marler and Stewart. Joe Marler featured at hooker for a bit, as you can see just over here, while Don Brand replaces Lewis Ludlam, who was not really too threatening against the Scottish to me. Yeah, not a good one for Lewis Ludlam. In the 66th minute, Russell's cross kick to Van der Merwe allows Van der Merwe to beat 3 defenders. The only times I think he beat defenders in the game though. He gets Scotland going forward, and Russell cross kicks once again. This one goes to touch though. Luke Cowan-Dickie was a pretty dumb move from him. He hits the ball into touch. It's not league, man. Darcy Graham, as ruled by the refs, would have scored had Cowan-Dickie not hit the ball out. Cowan-Dickie is of course yellow carded, and there's a penalty try, so that means the scoreline is 17-all. England really blowing it, and I think this moment absolutely won Scotland the game. It was just so silly by Cowan-Dickie. He should have just waited for Graham to catch it and just tackled him to touch. Look, rugby happens and things like this happen. Guys, you just have to hold your discipline, okay? Please don't do this ever again, Cowan-Dickie. You're gonna screw it up for your team, man. England's trying to rally things together. Only 9 minutes to go. An amazing driving maul by Scotland gets them into England's half. England repeatedly collapse the scrums, and so Finn Russell takes the penalty. England is then losing 17-20. Scotland has taken the lead. Joe Marchant manages to drop the kick-off into touch, though I'm thinking at this point, man, where is Jack Nowell? Scotland's back three, the outside backs, whatever you want to call them, performed so well under the high ball. Joe Marchant, I see him as a specialist centre. He was getting quite ruthlessly exposed under that high ball if you ask me. Max Malins, I think, is best in the centre, and I'm not a big fan of the whole numberless backline that Eddie Jones was trying to do. Scotland, I think, looked far more organised because the jersey on your back for Scotland was determining your role for Scotland, whereas with England, anyone can just come up and do anything. I don't agree with the whole numberless backline tactic. France are going to rip it to shreds if you ask me. Look, Jamie George, he comes on for Sam Simmons while Cowan Dickey is in the sin bin. Ben White comes back on as well and attempts to clear for touch. Itoje charges him down from offside. England are just desperate at this point. Just some silly stuff goes on in the last 10 minutes. Scotland could have bottled it as well. In the 76th minute, penalty against England is reversed because Hamish Watson neck rolls Tom Curry, who had a great game as the England captain. A lot of pretty dodgy stuff went on in that last 10 minutes, and both of the teams were lucky not to get penalised after Russell got that last one for Scotland. Will Stewart does get a turnover in the 77th minute. England go for touch, but they choke again. Johnny Gray is able to steal the line out. Great performance from him. Pierre Schoeman, though, gives England yet another chance in the 79th minute. Knocks the ball on in his own half. Scotland just reset the scrum over and over and over again, so that way they can tire England out. They get the turnover through Darcy Graham, they win the game. Look, man, Stuart Hogg, fantastic job as captain. Scotland have won the Calcutta Cup for the first time in a row since 1984. They had not won it back to back since all of the players fielded today were not even born. Crazy stuff for Scotland, they'll be very proud of that. The commentators were really praising Gregor Townsend's coaching, and Eddie Jones might have to go back to the drawing board. As I said, numberless backs not working, mate. Just really not working. Elliot Daly, a bit of a no-show as well. Just drop him already. Please, just drop him already. Henry Slade, better at 13. Goodness me, man, England bottled it. They had a far better team than Scotland on paper. Not very good for them. Just very bad and stuff. England could have done much better. I said, look, Scotland could possibly win this, and it did happen. Scotland really needed this to happen as well. This is going to give them a great confidence boost ahead of the 2023 Rugby World Cup. They're in the pool of death there, so yeah, confidence will need to go to astronomical levels considering they're playing Ireland and South Africa. Before I conclude this video, I just want to say England looked far better with Marcus Smith at 10 than George Ford. Marcus Smith was getting the boys behind him, he was executing the game plan really well. Bringing him off was not good for England. George Ford has kind of lost his dominance as a leader in that back line. Henry Slade is deputised for Owen Farrell, and without Farrell, the back line, which is numberless according to Jones, just doesn't work for me. Like, it's one thing to have the guys not have a general role around the field and obey the core roles of their position, but it's another to have a guy who can't really steer the ship from 10. George Ford may be playing well at club level right now, but as I've repeatedly said, he just isn't good enough for international rugby. He's played far too many tests for someone of his ability. It's time to just let Smith completely take the reins, and I hope Jones knows what he's doing by having Ford in there at the same time as Smith. So that's going to be the end of the video, guys. If you're ever keen to support me on Instagram, the Discord server, or on this channel, remember to hit the subscribe or the follow button. Like this video as well and comment your thoughts on the game. I found it very fun to watch and very exciting, on the edge of my seat as a neutral observer. I may be winning the wrong jersey though because of the 20-17 victory by Scotland. If you're ever keen to make a small financial donation, I have a Patreon account, a Subscribe Star account for those who just don't seem to like Patreon, and if you're ever keen to just do something as one-off, I do have a PayPal button in the description. Thank you so much for the continued support on this channel, guys. It's your boy Max, I'm signing out. Cheers for having me, Scotland and England.